Hello and welcome to this KHL webinar, Realising Connected Construction, Big Gains for Small Contractors. I'm Andy Brown, I'm the editor of International Construction, and we're bringing you this webinar in association with Trimble. So this webinar will last for approximately 45 minutes, possibly a touch longer, and we'll be talking about the connected construction site. Just to highlight now that you can ask questions to our two speakers, and indeed I actively encourage you to do so via the Q&A function, which you should see there at the bottom of your screen. Please do ask them. I will get to as many as I can do throughout this webinar. Now I'd like to welcome our speakers. So first of all, we have Seth Meisel. So Seth is an excavator product manager for the Civil Construction division with Trimble. Seth has spent more than 5 years in vertical and horizontal construction with a focus on large overlock grading, soil stabilization, deep foundations, vertical construction inspection, and road and bridge construction. He also has a bachelor's degree in geotechnical engineering, and if that wasn't enough, he has a second in civil engineering. So I think I'm pretty confident in saying that Seth knows what he's talking about. How are you, Seth? Thank you for joining us.
I'm well, Andy. Thank you for having me.
All of a sudden, I feel quite underqualified after that, Seth. We are also joined by Wayne Barr. So Wayne's based in Scotland, although you might notice a slightly different accent to that. And he is a project director at Ground Development Limited, or GDL. They're a specialist geotechnical earthworks contractor. He's been in the construction industry for around 20 years and has extensive knowledge in civil and geotechnical project delivery. And Wayne has played a key role in his company being at the forefront of new technology in the UK construction scene. Hi Wayne, how are you?
I'm good, thanks Andy. Good to be here.
Great, thank you Wayne. So both Seth and Wayne have provided some slides for us. Before that, just a couple of quick questions. So first of all, for you Wayne, can you tell us a little bit about GDL and kind of maybe how important technology's been to the company and whether it's enabled you guys to perhaps punch above your weight?
Yeah, we were setting up as a civils contractor, and we saw the opportunity for growth in the housing market. And so what that meant is we needed a lot more leveling and platforming by our machine men. So we were looking for technology in which we could be more productive. We could have a better quality finish, and we were just a lot more efficient with our time on site each day. So as a result, in 2012, we purchased our first couple of sets of GPS equipment, which we put on our dozers. And from 2012 to now, we've just grown from strength to strength. Our company has increased in our turnover from 5 million to approximately 20 million we're targeting this year, but our staff levels have increased from 20 to 40. So we've doubled in staff, but our turnover has increased by approximately 15 million in that time. And that's been a massive contribution to obviously the technology we now use and the guys' efficiency by actually being in the machines and just working with the equipment they've got available.
Great, thanks Wayne. And then a quick question for you, Seth. So we're kind of talking about connected construction. I kind of wonder what this phrase means to you and maybe how connected construction has evolved over the last few years.
Yeah, so connected construction used to be with your field engineers or your foreman being able to get an iteration of a design just over the internet and send out a new set of plans electronically that you could go to the field office and print. That was a solid connected site. At this point, what we're looking at with connected construction is being able to send designs down to the machines directly to the operators from the cloud and having each machine connected connected back to the designers back in the office, as well as connected to the foreman and the superintendents on tablets out on the site. So everybody has the latest and greatest rev of what they need to be prosecuting on the job site. So it's quite a bit different in recent years than it was even 5 or 8 years ago.
Okay, great. And then for you, Wayne, we hear a lot about kind of construction projects being over budget and perhaps not being delivered on time. As sort of someone who's obviously there on the ground, kind of how big a role do you think technology can help with these things?
Yeah, technology in which we're using right now it's all about gathering data from site and bringing it back and being able to plan and program works going forward. You can get a real time update on volumes to then know how much you've done, how much you've got left to do, and you can actually then allocate resources and plant to the works that you've still got remaining. You can actually assess what you've done to date, whether you've actually used the equipment and the resources efficiently. So yeah, the technology that's available to us now actually allows us to make informed decisions every single day, rather than waiting for an engineer to be out on site and carry out a site survey and bring that data back into the office and get it processed and then start to make those decisions. So, we're actually making decisions day to day rather than week to week or month to month nowadays. So, and without the technology we're using right now, we wouldn't be able to do that. And it's, big benefit to our company at this point in time.
Okay. So Seth, is that when you talk to customers, is that kind of one of the things that they're talking about, is the fact that they have this kind of data? I mean, is it, a key point how they leverage technology, for what you might call value engineering?
Absolutely. Value engineering used to consist of having a roadway set of plans all taped up on the wall of a job trailer, and you would sit down with the superintendent and run hand calcs and cross sections, every few meters or feet by hand, to make sure that you just had that sanity check, to where today, when you go into a value engineering proposition, the digital model lets you run these calculations that would take hours upon hours, with two guys sitting at a table, most likely running the calcs, to where it can be done in a couple clicks of a button. And unforeseen site conditions, manipulating designs in a digital format, all plays into this value engineering, and actually being able to propose a new and maybe better design and save the owner a ton of time and a ton of money, while driving profits up all at the same time for the contractor.
Okay, perfect. Do you guys want to start the presentation?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So, can't argue with numbers. Grade control really enables us to understand our overall process. So whether you're cutting, filling, or fine grading, you have that process in hand. So when we're looking at refining estimates, we tune machines and automatics to, our goal is always on the excavator is always plus or minus 25 millimeters. So you can think about that on a pipe run. It gets you can get your quantities very tight. Expensive engineered fill gets very tight on just a linear pipe run, but then in the overall ecosystem, looking at a project, we have these results from understanding where the design starts and the various phases that it needs to go through. You've heard Wayne talk about, we went from on a weekly and a monthly basis to now we're on a daily basis of looking at that efficiency and productivity. And what that digital design allows you to do is work the phases of those projects really, really well, and be able to communicate that information down to the operators and then consume it for the foreman or the superintendent. This is done on a daily basis, like Wayne said, instead of a weekly basis. And so overall, the life of the project is healthier. You wind up with a better product. You're not double and tripling handling subgrade, we're one touching things as much as possible, lets you plan more efficiently on a daily basis, as well as the overall life of the project. So.
Okay, great. And just, I've got a very quick question, which is, I just wonder, kind of going into the refining estimating practices a little bit. I mean, just how much more accurate does this mean that contractors can be when it comes to bidding?
Well, like we touched on a moment ago, that plus or minus 25 mils on a pipe run, that turns into quite a bit of cost savings, and you can trust that with a solid design, that your operators are going to get the grade fast the first time and accurately within kind of those expected tolerances. So you can on the whole ecosystem use that same set of parameters and build your phases out with various phases of that design to get to the final design, and there are no questions, right? If something comes up that's unexpected, you can quickly and easily manipulate that phased portion of that design and then start prosecuting work again with the click of a button, getting that design down to the operators. So.
Okay, great. I'll just ask you a question, please, Wayne. So, like I said, the Q&A function is live, and we've already had a couple of questions in, which is great. So, one for you, Wayne, which is, did the drive to introduce this tech to your company come from the top, or did the money men have to be swayed that the investment was worthwhile?
This came from the top, because when we sat as a management team, we wanted to be the best at what we did. And to be the best, we actually had to look at how we could do things better than our competitors. And at the time, GPS technology was very much, only a handful of companies in the UK were using it then. And the more reading and understanding on what it could do, it gave us the insight to actually, this is where the next steps in construction were going to be. So we went and visited the site in the northeast, and we watched for best part of half an hour the operator trimming a road, and we were sold. That was it. We watched the guy. This is a guy who was been driving equipment for, he was 30 years in a dozer at that stage, and then they threw GPS on him, and he was like, and he said within a day he had it. He was competent enough to use it, but he said at that point he would never go back. So, and this is a guy who's been operating that kind of plant for a long time, and usually what we found is they're the hardest ones to convince most of the time, but this guy was sold, and beyond that we came back and we had 2 bits of kit bought within the next week.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wayne. Sorry, Seth.
Not at all. So at Trimble, this is how we've modeled our connected construction kind of phase. We started feasibility and planning, and you can see all these various steps that get to the owner acceptance and the final sign off. What's in red here is what we're really focused on in today's conversation, is that execute phase and where the work actually happens, and then the real-time productivity updates, which I came out of the field as a field engineer. I love being in the dirt, and that's where a lot of the work happens, right? So having that cycle is something that we are very passionate about. In particularly gets me pretty excited. So when I was running calcs and quantities and things like that, it was a daily thing, but it took a lot of work to set up in Excel to run daily overs and unders on a job. It was weeks of preparation to be able to do that, and then hours upon hours of work after the job site closed down for the day to be able to tell the engineer in the morning, this is where we are. And that costs everybody a lot of time and money. So whereas these productivity updates and the volumes and pay items and how much of that pay item have you spent on a given job. That used to be done more like on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. Now, inspectors, foremen, site superintendents, they all have the ability to do this through technology on a daily basis or even midway through the day. If there's a question about where you are after 4 or 5 hours of work throughout the day, we can tell operators where they are, and we can assist the operators in being more efficient. We can tell owners in the daily diaries that we have to submit. We can capture the surface models and the volumes with timestamps throughout the day and show this is what we prosecuted in one day, and it's not just a weekly report out at the beginning of a week or maybe the end of a week. So that execute phase and how work happens to real-time productivity we are really focused on that at Trimble, and really trying to make sure that we enable our construction crews to be as efficient as possible at all times. So Wayne touched on a little bit of this already. What do we see as keeping a lot of end customers from using that technology, a lot of contractors from adopting it? There are a lot of very seasoned, very good operators in the field these days that they always have employment. It is hard to find a younger operator that has that vision that those older operators they have this ability to see the design and execute to that design in their mind's eye, almost, if you will. But a lot of them are maybe a little fearful of that change or adverse to adopting that technology. It's a touch screen. It looks more like a phone. Maybe it feels like a computer in the cab. And like Wayne said, I hear this story over and over again where there's a lot of I don't need that. I don't necessarily want that. It's overly complicated. We spent years developing a very sleek and simple user interface for operators. What we didn't do was take a survey tool and stuff it into a cab. We built something that was meant for operators. Simple button presses, 1 or 2 to get done and get moving on work, and visualizing what's going on in relation to the design. And usually within half an hour of having somebody who's really not open to the idea, within half an hour they open the cab door on an excavator and they're all grins and they say, I want one of these. This is fun. We've taken something that can become mundane or challenging and we've made it fun again. And that has all kinds of all kinds of implication with productivity and things like that. Another thing we hear about is large capital expenditure up front, and technology does cost money on top of the cost of the iron. There's no way around that. However, we're always trying to push the limits of how to put the technology in the owner's hands. And the operator's hands. In North America, we've introduced something called Trimble Products as a Service. It's a subscription-based program. We're looking at what something like that looks like to roll out worldwide. But what we often hear is it takes maybe a job or half a season, maybe a season at most, to pay a lot of this technology off because of the productivity gains. And then after that, now you're just having a higher turnover rate on jobs. You're able to prosecute more work. So there is an initial investment, but typically that investment is very small when we look at the overall gains for a company. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry, Seth, I've just seen a quick question that's come in here from Matthew Hess, and I think he's referring to the previous slide that you were talking about when you were talking about connected construction. And he just kind of asks where some of this data is from, and is this data from BIM models?
Oh, I want to say yes. So forgive me that the design side is not my strong suit. But yes, so we're taking a paper set of designs or consuming a CAD model. We use Trimble Business Center to build that model, and then so the analytics, that model or the various phases you construct in that model is going to be what gives you the ability to calculate your volumes, because when we have a connected machine, what we're doing is we're capturing mapping data from that machine through northings, eastings, and elevations on the attachment tip, or from the grousers of a dozer, right? So on the excavator, it's going to be a bucket tooth tip. On a dozer, we can do the blade or track mapping. And so we're able to update a surface model and then compare it to an existing model to then calculate volumes. I hope that helps answer some of that question.
Great, thank you, Seth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just summarizing, that's actually a pretty good segue into this next slide. Thanks for asking that question, Matthew. So we start with that model creation, and then we have tools that allow the superintendents and the foreman to manage the various designs. We can always tell through WorksOS who's on the latest and greatest design and what phase of that design. So you can always tell what your operator is guiding to and cutting to, and if it's the correct model or not. So then we go into monitoring. We have things like our remote operator view inside of our technicians tool, so you can see the operator's screen on a connected machine, from wherever you are. If you're the superintendent and you had to run out, you can pull this up on your phone, as long as there's a connection there. And then, like I just spoke to, we're capturing that elevation data in the northings, eastings, and elevations from whatever attachment tip or track mapping, and we can update and sync that surface model in the background, and then draw it back down to the machines, and everybody can update their map and see what they've prosecuted throughout the day, what they have yet to complete, or where they are inside of the goal that was set for the week. So with that, we've touched on a lot of generalities, and I'm going to hand it over to Wayne, and he's going to talk about some real life examples here and get into the dirt. So
Thanks, Seth. Yeah, this Jackton project, which we are currently working on, is we spent a good year and a half working on the development and getting this to actually construction stage with our client. And with this project, we were able to actually offer up a couple of our specialist solutions for foundations, and also we offered up a solution for an embankment foundation where we no longer had to dig out 7,500 cube and replace it with imported aggregates. We were actually able to use a grout injected system and mix the existing soils and with the grout and make a cementatious finish. So, and then beyond that, we're going to build a 4.5-5 meter wall on top of it. So, as part of our geotech team, we've come up with these solutions, and we're actually, with the help of the technology we've got available, we're actually able to deliver quite a large project in a very short amount of time using our specialist techniques. Can we go next slide, please, Seth?
Sure.
So Seth touched on the TBC TBC is such an important part of our business because it's actually where we generate surface models for all the equipment and the machines. So we take the information provided by the clients and actually turn it into surface models. These surface models are then, obviously, we use them for various things. We use them for quantification for the project to get volume for at tender stage. And then we actually use the same surfaces for actually exporting via Works Manager out to the equipment on site for the guys to actually have the most up-to-date and correct data available for their operations. So, and then again, we're actually extracting some of the data from site, from the machines back into TBC to actually do some volume analysis. And we're actually using some of that, these surface models for validation reports, which we'll talk about in a couple more slides time.
Can I just ask you, Wayne, before we go on to the next slide then, is there, obviously each project will be different, so there's not always one set answer, but how often then would the models be updated on a daily basis, or would it be kind of more frequent than that or less frequent than that? What tends to be the norm?
To be honest, the client can often change some of the level layouts early in the project when they're still refining what their requirements are in terms of the amount of houses they want to put on a development. They might have a couple of road alignments they want to change further down the development, depending on how a site's selling or how it's doing. So that's generally the only time we actually need to change a surface model. Or else, if there's another application like a retaining wall that needs to be built and we need to add in some scarcement for the guys to actually build the wall, we might update the model to actually accommodate that. And then you'll get the day-to-day stuff where we can actually just add on some information to the data that we're sending to site through Works Manager to even just give guys areas that they're not to be working in for a period of time for a various reasons. So yeah, surface models probably more so at the start of a project. It's just general data that gets updated throughout the project in terms of what we're doing at any given time.
Okay, thanks, Ray.
So this is a 3D model we've created in TBC. This is quite important to us to actually see the site and how it's going to look, hopefully when we've completed the works, but it also gives us an opportunity to see if it's machine control friendly. We want to make sure that the guys on site are actually going to be able to use the equipment that they're using to the best of their ability by not putting in areas which are quite difficult to construct. So by looking at the models in this 3D system, we can actually see if there's any data that's come through that's not quite correct. So if there's any spikes above or below the surface, that's data that's not being obviously elevated, or it's gotten through in the processing phases. And then we basically can then go and look at how we're actually going to build the site and what's the best way for our site team to actually deliver this project. If there's where the large amount of cut is to where the fill needs to go, we want to do work on the shortest haul distances, but we also want to be able to actually build this in the front left-hand corner of the site. That's an earth embankment up to 5 meters high. So obviously there needs to be a certain way in which that's constructed, so it actually passes the validation for the site. So that alone has actually been quite a big job in itself for the guys on site to form that and then actually shape it to the final design. So by looking at the 3D models beforehand and speaking with the guys on site and how we're going to actually build this, it actually gives us a good insight on how we're actually going to deliver projects.
That's awesome. So this actually enables you to do like staged phase by phase constructability reviews.
Oh, definitely.
With
the
guys.
Yeah, well,
awesome.
this job, we had to build a haul road. This site's got an excess of material, and if you look down in the top corner, there's a suds pond, and would you believe the client wants a haul road right next to it? So just 2 days ago, I was able to take this 3D model and show them where this haul road was going to tie into the corner of the site. And we were able to highlight there's a 4-meter elevation difference between where their haul road is and where this site's going to be finished to, but they still want this haul road accessible for obviously removing the excess cut-off site. So beyond from that, we've actually now got a site instruction to do another 1,000 cube of filling to be able to tie the existing levels in to what these levels are going to be. So, you know, that's really handy to have, and it's really important to have, because until you built it, you wouldn't be able to see there's a potential problem there.
And then I've just got another question from the audience, from Aditya Sharma, who asks, how do you collect the data of the site? And then just a bit more information about kind of how much information might there be about the depth of particular locations.
We're actually, Seth mentioned it earlier, the machines themselves actually record data depending on whether it's set up for the blade or the tip of a bucket. So at the moment, all our machines, excavators, are set to lowest elevation, sorry. So as the excavators are excavating to the lowest point at any given area, that's the data in which we're recording. So we, at the end of a day or a week, we're able to export a surface model from that specific machine and bring it back into TBC and actually have that as a surface model, which we will talk, I'll talk about that in one of the upcoming slides, how we're utilizing that information as part of a validation report.
Great, thanks, Wayne.
Design management. So this is, again, this is where we're talking about sending a lot of our information through Works Manager. We brought Works Manager on last July. It was July actually, and we now everything, all data transfers from office to site via Works Manager. You know, we can now look at Works Manager and ensure that all our machines are working to the latest design available. We can actually archive previous designs, so guys on the machines can't actually access designs that are no longer applicable. So, you know, this has been such an important part, because in the past we've had machinemen working to wrong designs for days and weeks, which has actually meant we've had to go back and rework areas, which obviously came at quite a large cost to the business. So Trimble Works Manager is something we monitor every single day on all of our sites, just to ensure that the guys are working to the right data. And through the system, we're actually able to download some data back from site. We can download our survey equipment. If once we sync it back to Works Manager, we can take all the information from the T7s and actually process that back in the office before our surveys even had a chance to send the data back via email or through our cloud-based system. So it's a fantastic tool for us on the sites.
Excellent.
So this is WorksOS is again quite a new thing for ground developments, but such an important role it's playing at the current state, because we're able to monitor all our sites on a daily basis, and you know the information feeding back to the office is invaluable, because we're actually able to make uniform decisions about what's going to happen next day, what's going to happen next week. The site that we've got here on the slide, Glasgow Business Park, we were filling a tank up to formation level, and I didn't want the guys to overfill the tank with too much material of which we were stabilizing. We were adding a cement binder into the material, but so every hour I was monitoring the volumes in which they had within this specific area to ensure we didn't over engineer too much material, which would have cost us several £1000s. So I was able to get to pretty much 50 cube over the required fill amount and bring the guys on site and tell them that that's them, they've got enough. And at the end of the shift, they ended up with 30 cube too much material, which at that point in time was fantastic, because in the past we probably would have mixed a couple of 100 cube too much just to be sure. So that was a site we were monitoring hour by hour by hour until we got the right amount of volume in the site. So, and then on the left hand side, the Hamlet site, you know, we've been monitoring that job quite closely because we want to plan that job quite well in terms of what resources we're putting on it. It's not a large site, but obviously it needed a certain amount of resource to be able to do the job. And so the way the widgets are set up in WorksOS, you can actually look at works completed for a day, you can look at works completed for the week, and then works remaining for the complete site. You can actually break it down into certain areas of the site based on the boundaries you set up within WorksOS. So you could have a lot of widgets working all at the same time, which is just going to feed data back, and that's going to help our management team and our site managers make really good decisions on what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what's the next move for them as a team on site.
Okay, great. So, sort of being on the theme of support, then we've got a question for you, Seth, from Roger Ebbers, who asks, once operators are using your surveying tech, what sort of support is available to them, and is support on hand immediately if there's a problem or a query?
So inside of our operator UI, we have a lot of iQueries, and you can pull up a given function and tap a button and it'll explain to you what that function does. Now, as far as overall support goes, say that something goes awry with the system, we have an extremely robust support system through our dealer channel and distribution channel, being SciTech. And what I hear over and over again and feedback from the field is that when we call, they're there and they're helping and they're assisting. We also have a lot of learning modules available through Trimble Learn for end customers to utilize if they so choose. And you know, Wayne was just telling me about one of his operators that got a new excavator system, and he's going home and he's having such fun with it that he's going home and he's watching YouTube videos on how other operators around the world manipulate this system, and you know, just kind of quick. So you know, we do produce formalized support tools, and we have a formal support channel as well. But guys love this system, and you know, if they're posting things on YouTube because they get excited about it. And so there's all kinds of resources out there, formal and informal, to be utilized. But we do have very robust support systems through our dealer channel.
Okay, great. And obviously those support systems are available, but I just kind of wonder, Wayne, is there any more of the common issues that your guys kind of have, or they ask kind of you or kind of Trimble to kind of look at for you?
Yeah, there's always the odd time something's not quite going right with the equipment, and the good thing is there's remote access, so I can access every single one of the control boxes from my laptop. So they allow me access, and I can actually help them assess what any of the problems might be, and we can do the basic checks. You know, sometimes it's just you need to unplug it all, plug it all back in, turn it off, turn it back on, and everything comes back on. Or if they're quite new to the equipment, they've probably changed radio frequencies. So they'll let me in, I can get into their control box, we can go through the basic functions. If by that stage we don't actually have an answer for it, you know, Seth said, SciTech, you pick up the phone to SciTech, 9 times out of 10, the technicians can actually help you assess any problems over the phone. And if you can't get it by that point, obviously we then get them out to site, and they're there within the next day or two max. So yeah, the support we get from Trimble and SciTech has been fantastic. And 9 times out of 10, we can pretty much fix it on site via the remote access or via speaking to one of the SciTech team.
Okay, great. It's good to know that turning things on and turning things off works in lots of different mediums.
It does most of the time. So yeah, machine data. So this is something we were talking about earlier about the recording of a machine. So this is our DSM operation on the left-hand side. So we're injecting cement grout into the ground. We're using a rotivating head at the base of the mixing arm here, and we're actually mixing soils down to 5 meters. So this will get mixed. Obviously, we have a specification for a foundation solution for a retaining wall. But as this is set up as a bucket attachment, it's actually recording lowest pass for each of the areas that we're actually mixing. So at the end of this project, I was able to actually extract the surface model that this machine created at the lowest pass for the area that we treated. And that's actually going to be added to our validation report for the project. So, and it actually gave us a really good insight on the actual volume we mixed for the project. So we were able to actually check back on what we thought we were going to mix and what we did mix, and it was quite fortunate we're actually just on the better side of the volumes on this occasion. So yeah, and this is 5 meters in the ground. Like you can't get an engineer to check those volumes or check those surfaces, but this piece of equipment is recording that surface below the surface. So it's a fantastic tool for that. So it's been really great. So
okay, I've just got another quick question for you, Wayne, not necessarily just related to this project that we just spoke about, but I just kind of wonder, the fact that we have all this technology and this data and this reports, I mean, does it mean that everyone on your, everyone who works on your sites, is a bit more accountable, and so you have more information about what's going on, and has that kind of maybe changed the way that people work?
Yeah, to a certain degree, our guys are a really good bunch of guys. They're there for the right reasons, and they like to come and do a solid shift every single day. It's not about accountability. It's more about doing the job and doing it right first time. So with the introduction of these, with obviously with machine control and now Works Manager and Works OS, they can see it's actually just making their job that wee bit easier, because we're now actually able to give them a lot more information a lot quicker than we ever have. So they're actually enjoying the fact that they're being watched each day, because they know in the background they're going to get all the right information for tomorrow and for next week, and that's making their job that wee bit easier. They're not left waiting for information or waiting for the next task to do. So yeah, accountability is, we all come to work in our business to enjoy what we do, and everyone actually seems to enjoy what we do. So yeah, in that sense, we're more about doing things better, and our guys are, in the last 6 months, have been nothing but complimentary about how we've actually taken it that next step, because to a point we thought we were already there. There was nothing more to learn. There was nothing more to gain. But we've actually, I think we've jumped 2 giant steps forward in the last 6 months with the introduction of these latest products.
Okay, thanks, Wayne.
Including this information in the dailies and communicating it to the owners, what has it done, Wayne, for just the confidence that the owner made a good decision in bringing your crew on?
I suppose, Seth, the answer to that is we're getting repeat business.
Yeah.
A lot of clients, because of what we're doing and how we're doing it and the information and the validating we're giving them, we have a lot of repeat business from the same clients because of what we've what we've done for them in the past. So, and yeah, so moving forward is once we've generally done a project for one company, they will be sending us their next job, their next job, their next jobs to look at, because they then believe what we offered them in terms of a value engineered site with our solutions has actually worked. So, and we can prove it with all the data that we've gathered throughout the project. So much so we're doing a job 8 hours away in Colchester just now, and already the client's sending us 2 more jobs after just only really getting into the main earthworks and stabilization in the last 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, they've just seen such a transformation of the site that they've told the MD of the company who was down there this week that, hey, you guys are going to be looking at all our muck shifting sites. You guys are going to be getting involved in all our stabilization projects. So, and you know, GPS and the way we do things was quite new to them when we rocked up on site. But already the feedback is absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome. So I guess I have one more question along that line. Like you talked about being able to increase the size of your just your crew and the amount of work. You mentioned you've got repeat customers coming in. What was your production per head prior to technology, and what's your production now per head on the crew?
Back in prior to GPS and the technology we've got, we were targeting 400 to 500 cube a day, and we thought we were absolutely smashing it. We thought we were leading the market. And then then we got our first dozer kits, and then obviously the increase in production started to. It wasn't overnight. It took a wee bit of time to learn how to use the technology and use it well, along with our other specialist techniques. But the fact that over that time and over the past 8 years, we would on average now mix and place between 1,200 to 1,500 cube a day. So, you know, it's a huge increase in productivity. And, you know, for a company of our size, going from 20 staff turning over 5 million to 40 staff turning over, hopefully this year, 20 million. You know, that's the difference in those 8 years. And that, you know, the technology we're now using has played a huge role in us improving. And it's like everything in life, you're looking for how to be that wee bit better and what can help you be that wee bit better. And there's always that wee improvement we can always make as a specialist company. And I think with the help of you guys and the introduction of what we've done, we're improving every day.
Awesome. So it's so good to hear things like that. Really encouraging. So we've, just to summarize everything, bringing in full circle of, you know, the analytics, the tasks, the execute, and then leveraging the data during the execute phase and repeating this cycle. You know, we've talked in general about the initial Trimble, the design and Trimble Business Center, and how that can be leveraged. And Wayne has explained how he does that on a daily basis at this point and throughout a given day, giving guys hourly updates, right, even down to that time frame. You know, we can get those designs down to the machines very, very quickly through WorksOS and Works Manager, and that gives the operator real-time information to leverage in the field and pivot and adjust as differences arise or unforeseen site conditions arise. That information is then consumed by the machine and pushed back into the cloud and can be leveraged in Business Center, and that cycle starts all over again. And I think for all of us, that cycle is the life, that is the heartbeat of an active construction project day in and day out. And when we have our finger on that pulse, it's really encouraging to know where you are and when you're there, and just how much you have left to go. And Wayne, it makes me really, really excited to hear all about how the guys have adopted it and the crew has taken to it. You know, a lot of us get worried about you know, maybe being watched, or maybe does it seem like we're not being trusted, but you've been able to show how your crew just, they thrive on this information.
Mhm.
And that is so encouraging to hear, that they want to hear, like, you know, what have I done? What have I completed? There is very little to no guesswork in the process. And it does, you know, a crew that has high morale is only more productive, and just the overall life of that crew is higher quality. So it's really encouraging to hear some of this.
Okay, great. So Wayne, I've got a question, which is obviously, you know, you guys are very kind of forward thinking when it comes to kind of tech. Is it now, if you're looking to kind of hire new people, would you expect them to have kind of a certain kind of minimum knowledge of technology in order for you to bring them on, or at least a certain enthusiasm for them to learn it?
Yeah, I think that it's the willingness to obviously adapt change. And I do believe within the next 5 years, every machine that rolls out is going to be some form of machine control added to it. You know, each guy we speak to, we tell them that all our machines have got machine control on them, so we encourage them, and we work with them. We don't just throw them on the seat and just leave them to it. We go through and we talk about the basic fundamentals. We actually give them we printed off basic how to operate rather than the 30-page version. We've simplified it, so if they do have a couple of problems throughout the day, they can actually just check and see what's going on. But we set them up, we let them go, and like Seth said earlier, you know, 9 times out of 10, the guy comes out at the end of the day with a big smile on his face, thinking this is amazing, and that's what we want, and that willingness to learn shows us that their willingness to be part of our team. So, and if someone's willing to make that slight change and learn something new, then we're willing to invest in them and bring them on and be part of our team.
And is that something that you, obviously, Seth, you're kind of, as you know, when I read out your at the start of your bio, one of your degrees, this is something that you're kind of well versed in. But I just kind of wonder, from the customers and from the other people that you speak to in the industry, kind of where do we think we are on the construction tech kind of journey, and have we seen quite a big acceleration over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been out of the field all that long. There were sites there were a lot of sites that didn't have technology on them. And when I was finishing up managing projects for the Department of Transportation in Colorado, I would ask some of the foremen, like, what's the barrier to entry? You know, we ran into this change order. You know, if we had this technology, that we would have never written that change order. We would have never had to do that. We could have had these answers very, very quickly, click of a button, right? And in the last few years, I've seen a higher adoption of technology, and smaller contractors are beginning to use it. You know, crews that are 2-3 people big, owner operators are starting to adopt this technology because they know it gives them an edge. But still, even with the increase, overall, the industry is by no means flooded with technology. We have there's a long way to go for a lot of contractors to adopt, but as Wayne said, like, look at the case study, look at the numbers that his company has been able to produce since they did choose to adopt the technology. the ROI is, I mean, it speaks for itself. And I get super excited. Like I'm still just a little kid playing with the Tonka toys in the sand as far as I'm concerned. And the technology is a continuation of that. And it makes it fun every single day, and more productive. So I think while we've made good ground, I think we've got a lot of ground left to cover, and we are always trying to push the limits of how to enable people to do more with less. So.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's a good point to end it on. We said we'll be 45 minutes, and we've been 55 minutes, so we haven't overrun by too much. So yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to both of you. So thank you, Seth. It's been great. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. It's been a pleasure.
That's good. I enjoyed hearing that Scottish accent coming across.
Yeah, I've just seen a wee comment on the Q&A there about my use of "we," so I think that's the extent of my Scottish accent.
I like it. I like it. So yes, so thank you to everybody who has watched as well. And it just remains for me to say that please keep an eye on www.kshow.com, as we will put full recording of this webinar up. And also, I believe that for everybody that's registered, we'll also be sending you some information via your email as well. So yes, thank you very much to everybody for watching this. It's been great. And yes, see you again soon. Bye.